Welcome back to The Grind for a guide on quest 7.3. Quest number 1, arguably another easy path option with Mutant, Mastery, Endurance Trial, and Persistent Pressure. So there's not a whole lot going on in this fight. You do want to bring in your mutants, and you do want to be able to apply debuffs because you only deal damage based on how many debuffs you have on the opponent. So with one debuff, you'll deal 25% damage, and it goes up to 100% damage after 4 debuffs on the opponent. So you want to be able to maintain those debuffs on the opponent in order to continue dealing max damage. The other thing to consider is Persistent Pressure, where the opponent is going to get an unstoppable buff for 15 or every 15 seconds that will last 5 seconds, but is reduced half a second for every prowess effect on you. And you get these prowess effects every time you land a debuff on the opponent. And the special 1 that I did originally did some good bleed damage, and then I went for a special 3. But because every time you use a special attack you consume your prowess effects, you come out and your high damage phase, you're kind of cut down because you don't have debuffs. But then when I throw the special 1, as I mentioned, I got some pretty solid bleeds on it. So the special 1 did some good damage. And if you get a ton of prowess effects, you can land some good crits on your special 2 as well. But because of the boosted damage and the number of times you could cycle your special 1 for the increased bleeds, I think perhaps the special 1 might be a good option here. But either way works. You just want to keep stacking bleeds and make sure that you have at least 4 bleeds or debuffs on the opponent before you use your high damage special attacks. Sunspot's another fantastic option for this because he has very easy access to a ton of debuffs on the opponent. So what I did was I threw a few special 1s, built back up to a special 2, made sure I applied as many incinerates as possible to get those passive or to get those prowesses built up high. We did some insane damage, and then the fight ended pretty quickly after that. So Sunspot can totally cheese this whole path if you have them. Next, I brought in Apocalypse for the next fight just to try out a bunch of different options, and Apocalypse works great because he has very easy access to debuffs as well. On his heavy attack, he can apply 2 bleeds, and on his special attacks, he applies debuffs as well. So the one thing to consider is the unstoppable buff that you get from Persistent Pressure, unstoppable buff that the opponent gets, because Apocalypse's animations do last quite some time. You want to make sure you throw them off with enough time before the unstoppable buff goes active. So what I did first was I built up to a special 2, and of course I attacked into the evade and got hit, but that's okay. We're going to get some big damage off of this special 2, and what I should have done is do a lot more heavy attacks in ramping up. It was a big mistake that I missed out on because I could have built up a lot more prowess effects, but you can see that first special 2 did some pretty nice damage. And now we're going back into building up our power, and we're going to throw off a special 1 after we've got about 10 prowesses, and it deals some pretty nice damage, and we're very close to finishing off the fight. Mostly the debuffs and that last heavy attack just kind of finish it off, and then we kind of wait it out, and the fight is over. The next fight on this path is Dr. Voodoo, and we're trying out Archangel. Archangel also has very easy access to lots of debuffs, so you can build up prowess effects very quickly. Now the thing with Archangel is the damage comes mostly from the neurotoxins and not the special attacks, so the prowesses aren't that important, but they do help because when you do build up some power, I usually save up to my special 2 in this situation, and when you throw it off you can get some nice damage in addition to the neurotoxins, but it's not, you know, the biggest source of damage. But you can see here we're going to throw off a nice special 2. We're going to land a crit, I think only on 1 of the hits, which is too bad, but we do get some nice damage, 15,000 damage crit on that one there. And then we're going to skip ahead a bit, continuing with parry heavies, building up those neurotoxins, throwing off another big special 2 at the end, and then the damage over time finishes it off. Now the next fight is Aegon, another very simple fight. This whole path has very simple opponents, so it is a very good option for completion. And this fight with Cable, most of the damage again is from damage over time, but we're building up to a special 2. We're down to 50% on Aegon by the time we do throw off that special 2, and it does some really big damage as well, a 43,000 crit on that second hit. And now the fight's essentially over, just, you know, building up debuffs, making sure we have at least 4 on at a time, and finished off the fight there. The last fight I decided to bring in Sunspot for this one again, and same strategy, building up to special 1s, throwing off a few of those, and then throwing up a big special 2 after applying as many incinerates on the opponent as possible so that we can build up as many prowess effects before our special 2 as possible. I did make a couple of mistakes in this fight because I am very much human and I make a lot of mistakes, but Regardless, we just threw off our third special 1, and now we're building up to our special 2. We are pulling off some of those incinerates to draw power, which does give us a little less time to attack in and build up more prowess, but you'll see we really do not need to maximize the prowess because the damage is insane. So I do hope that this video was helpful. If you have a sunspot, you can crush this lane. Let me know what your thoughts are and who you use, and I do hope to see you in the next video.